Have you ever felt like you're swimming upstream, exhausted, frustrated, yet making no real progress? What if the secret to strength isn't in forcing your way through, but in knowing when to let go? The Stoics believed that sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. There's an old saying, a river doesn't force its way through the rocks. It flows around them, finding the smoothest path. And yet, how often do we push against life's current, insisting on control? We fight, we resist, we struggle, only to arrive at frustration, not freedom. The Stoics offered a profound insight here. Do not force what is not meant to be. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." But many misread this, imagining it means to bulldoze through every obstacle. That's not what the Stoics taught. The true wisdom lies in discernment, knowing when to push forward and when to pause. Picture a man lost in a thick, tangled forest. Panic sets in. He charges blindly through the brush, only to get more lost, more trapped. But if he stops, breathes, and observes, he may notice small clearings, faint trails, a way forward that doesn't demand a fight. Life works much the same. The harder you force an outcome, the more resistance you create. But the more you align with what is, the more life seems to cooperate. This is the art of moving without struggle. It is action without desperation, like swimming with the current instead of exhausting yourself against it. It is understanding that some doors swing open effortlessly, while others stay shut for a reason. Inner peace begins when you stop trying to force what isn't meant for you, and once you do, the flow of life feels less like a battle and more like a quiet unfolding. So how did the Stoics master this delicate balance? And how can you learn to apply it in your own life, cultivating resilience, patience, and the quiet strength of surrender? Let's begin with Lesson 1, the power of letting go. Letting go isn't about weakness. It's about making room for something better. As we've just seen, when we release the urge to control everything, we discover a quiet strength and an unexpected clarity. This wisdom unfolds more clearly through patience and practice. Just like a sculptor doesn't fight against the stone, but instead listens, tracing the natural curves already present within. It's a gentle collaboration, not a war. The sculptor carves not with force, but with respect for what the material is ready to become. Now imagine a river winding through a vast landscape. It doesn't rage against the terrain. It doesn't blast through mountains or rush past every obstacle. No, it flows where gravity guides it, finding its course with grace, not struggle. We too must learn to recognize when effort becomes resistance. When we push too hard in a direction not meant for us, we don't just face obstacles, we create suffering. We waste precious energy fighting what cannot be controlled, clinging to outcomes that may not serve us. And in doing so, we miss what's right in front of us. A failed business deal might seem like a setback, but what if it's making space for a better opportunity? A relationship ending may feel like loss, but could it be clearing the path for something more authentic, more aligned? Sometimes failure is simply life's way of redirecting us toward something greater. The Stoics remind us, every closed door is also an opening, but to walk through it, we must first stop banging on the one that won't open. There is wisdom in timing, a time to act and a time to pause, a season for planting and one for patient waiting. If we try to force life into our grasp, like clenching water in our hands, it escapes. But when we open our palms and allow the water rests there, calm and undisturbed. So ask yourself honestly, where in your life are you holding on too tightly? What are you afraid to lose if you simply let go? Here's the truth. What's meant for you cannot be taken away. And what isn't meant for you cannot be forced to stay. When we trust the rhythm of life, letting go no longer feels like defeat. It becomes a doorway to freedom. The more we release, the more space we create for joy, for growth, for peace. So next time you feel that tightness in your chest, that pressure in your mind, pause, breathe, soften your grip. Watch how life begins to move with you, not against you. Now let's continue with Lesson 2, Flowing with Life, a lesson rooted in ancient wisdom that shows us how adaptation, not resistance, is the path to true resilience. As we've just seen, letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means learning to move with life rather than against it. And that movement, when done with awareness, leads to grace, not struggle. Nature has long been our greatest teacher in this truth. Rigid things break, flexible things endure. The mighty oak, proud and unmoving, may seem strong, but when a fierce storm arrives and it refuses to bend, it snaps. Meanwhile, the willow, soft and swaying with the wind, survives. It flows with life rather than bracing against it. The more we resist reality, the more pain we invite into our lives. But when we adapt to the forces at play, when we lean into the moment instead of bracing against it, we find something remarkable: harmony. Seneca put it simply, but powerfully: fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. Resistance is suffering. When we try to force things, relationships, careers, outcomes, we're swimming against the current of reality itself. The Stoics called this idea amor fati, the love of fate. Not just acceptance, but full-hearted embrace of what life brings. When something doesn't go as planned, it's not necessarily a failure. It may be redirection. Think of a river. When it encounters a boulder, it doesn't slam against it over and over in frustration. It curves around it, patiently, steadily, until, over time, it reshapes the very landscape. The obstacle becomes part of its journey forward. Or imagine a sailor at sea. If he fights the wind, trying to force his ship against its power, he risks disaster. But if he learns to read the sky, feel the current, and adjust his sails, he harnesses the very force that once threatened him. The same wind that could wreck his boat can now carry him forward if he works with it, not against it. Life is much the same. We must learn to navigate, not dominate. When we stop resisting and start flowing, life unfolds with surprising ease. And this doesn't mean we become passive or indifferent. It means we begin to understand the vital difference between effort and struggle. The most effective leaders, the most fulfilled creators, and the most peaceful individuals aren't those who force their way through every obstacle. They are those who know when to press forward and when to pivot, when to persevere and when to pause. Just as a river finds its path not by force but by following the land's contours, we too can discover a more natural, more peaceful way forward. And in doing so, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities we might have, never considered, ones that only appear when we stop trying to control everything. Surrender, then, is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's alignment with the truth of how life works. When we trust the flow, we nurture the traits that help us thrive: patience, perspective, and resilience. Now imagine a gardener tending to his plants. Let's explore what he can teach us in Lesson 3, the patience of cultivation. Just as the river teaches us to move with life's current, the gardener teaches us something equally powerful: patience and trust in timing. He doesn't pull on the leaves to make them grow faster. He doesn't curse the rain or fight the change of seasons. Instead, he waters the soil, tends to each plant with care, and trusts nature's rhythm. His success doesn't come from force. It comes from understanding and working with the natural cycles at play. In life, the same principle applies. When we force outcomes, whether it's pushing for instant success or clinging to rigid expectations, we often sabotage our own progress. But when we align ourselves with the natural pace of things, we move forward with more clarity, purpose, and peace. You can see this wisdom echoed in countless areas of life: goals, careers, personal growth, even learning a new skill. The most successful entrepreneurs and creators aren't those who follow a strict, unchanging plan. They're the ones who pivot when necessary, who adapt to shifting conditions and respond to new opportunities with flexibility rather than fear. It's the mindset, not the method, that makes the difference. The more adaptable we are, the more naturally we can recognize when to seize the right moment and when to let go of the wrong one. The same truth applies to our relationships, both romantic and platonic. The strongest friendships and partnerships are those that develop organically, without pressure. When we try to mold a relationship into a fixed form, forcing expectations or manipulating outcomes, it often leads to tension, distance, even collapse. But when we give space for connection to grow, mutual trust and understanding have room to flourish. Romantic relationships thrive not when one person demands change, but when both are willing to grow together step by step in their own time. The path to mastery, too, is not paved by perfection, but by process. A musician doesn't become a virtuoso overnight. They repeat, refine, and let their craft evolve over time. A language learner doesn't memorize every word in a day. They immerse themselves in the rhythm of study. Even a web developer doesn't build a flawless app instantly. It's through patient learning, debugging, and iteration that true skill emerges. The more rigid we are in how we think we must grow, the more we risk breaking under pressure. But when we stay open, adaptable, and patient, we allow growth to unfold in its own time, without unnecessary resistance. This mindset not only eases our path forward, it also transforms how we deal with setbacks. When things don't go as planned, we stop seeing dead ends and start recognizing redirections. So what happens when a door closes or a plan falls apart? Let's continue with Lesson 4, Redefining Failure, and uncover how Stoic wisdom turns disappointment into a powerful stepping stone forward. Setbacks, delays, missed chances, what if they aren't obstacles at all, but redirections toward something more aligned with who we're meant to become? Think back to the lesson from the gardener. Things flourish in their own time, not by force. In the same way, a lost opportunity or an unexpected detour may be guiding you quietly, patiently, toward a path that holds deeper meaning. To practice this, start by paying attention to where resistance shows up most in your life. Where do you feel like you're constantly pushing, forcing, or struggling? Are you clinging to an outcome that deep down may not be right for you? Are you trying to make something work that clearly isn't flowing? The more we let go of what isn't meant for us, the more space we create for what is. New possibilities begin to emerge when we stop clenching and start trusting. Life opens up not when we demand, but when we align. So next time something doesn't go your way, pause. Don't force it. Instead, ask yourself, what is life trying to teach me here? This simple shift from resistance to curiosity, from forcing to flowing, can transform not just your experience, but your entire direction. And that brings us to lesson 3, nature's wisdom, the art of timing. Look around. Winter doesn't skip ahead to summer. The tree doesn't command its fruit to ripen before its season. Nature honors timing. Everything unfolds in its own rhythm. So why do we as humans so often feel the need to rush? Marcus Aurelius offered timeless advice. Never be in a hurry, do everything quietly and in a calm spirit. In today's world, where hustle is often mistaken for progress, this idea can feel almost radical. But the truth is, true mastery, true excellence, doesn't come from speed. It comes from sensing the right moment to act. Growth is not a race. It is a process, a journey. Just as a tree doesn't beg the sun to shine brighter or the rain to fall faster, it simply receives what is given and grows accordingly, patiently, deeply, in harmony with the conditions around it. When we rush, we risk burning out before we've even built a solid foundation. When we trust the pace of our lives, we allow ourselves to grow fully with resilience, strength, and grace. This principle touches every part of our lives, our careers, our ambitions, our relationships. A business that scales too fast may collapse. Before it matures, a brilliant idea, rushed, may never reveal its full potential. A relationship pushed before it's ready may fail to develop the depth it needs to endure. Everything meaningful takes time to ripen. Patience is not inaction. It's wisdom in motion. It allows us to take steps when the moment is right and to hold still when the season calls for rest. It teaches us to trust that what is meant for us will arrive, not by force, but by timing. When we learn to pace ourselves, we begin to see that every phase of life has its role. Even the waiting periods carry meaning. They're not? Let's explore why in Lesson 4. Embracing the wait, we often find our greatest growth not in action, but in the stillness in between. If growth is a journey, then the quiet in between. Moments are not pauses. They are the very ground where transformation takes root. We often overlook these periods, labeling them as delays or wasted time. But in truth, they are where the most profound changes begin, beneath the surface, invisible but essential. A young artist doesn't master their craft in a single night. A musician doesn't write a symphony in one sitting, and no great writer produces a masterpiece in just one draft. Skill, like nature, evolves through repetition, refinement, and unwavering persistence. Every misstep, every frustrating attempt, every silent hour of practice, it all contributes to the final work. Mastery is not defined solely by the result, but by the process, the slow, steady dedication to becoming better. In the same way, building a meaningful life requires more than just speed or ambition. It demands patience, care, and a deep respect for time. A relationship that is nurtured slowly, with presence and intention, builds a deeper foundation of trust than one rushed toward instant gratification. A startup that grows carefully, adapting to its challenges one step at a time, stands a far greater chance of lasting than one that expands too quickly and collapses under its own weight. Even our personal goals, whether it's learning a new skill, improving our health, or strengthening our emotional intelligence, require time. Setbacks are not signs of failure, but steps in the process. Perseverance and patience are the nutrients that allow growth to take root. Patience also helps us reframe how we see time itself. So often, we're fixated on the next goal, the next achievement, the next win, that we forget to value where we are now. But if we take a moment to pause and reflect, we realize that every stage of growth has its purpose. Just as unripe fruit on the vine isn't wasted, it's simply not ready yet. We too are never wasting time while we're in the process of becoming. Something is unfolding within us, even when we cannot yet see its final form. This shift in perspective is crucial, especially in a world that glorifies hustle, speed, and constant progress. We tend to celebrate big milestones while overlooking the quiet, often unseen, transformations in between. But the artist finds joy not only in the finished painting, but in the brushstrokes that bring it to life. The musician cherishes not only the concert, but the long, solitary hours of rehearsal that made the performance possible. Every tiny step, no matter how small or slow, is a part of the becoming, and much of our personal growth happens in ways we can't immediately see. Like a seed quietly germinating in the dark soil, much of our transformation takes place within, long before it ever becomes visible to the world. The frustrations, the delays, the moments we feel stuck, all of it deepens us. It shapes our resilience and adds richness to our journey. When we begin to embrace these moments rather than rush through them, we free ourselves from the constant anxiety of chasing the next thing. And in doing so, we begin to discover the quiet joy of simply being on the path. Now, let's take this further in Lesson 5. Inner stillness, the power of presence, where we explore how finding calm within allows us to navigate life with more clarity and strength. Transformation doesn't happen in a rush. As we've just explored, it takes root in the quiet in-between moments, those stretches of time where patience shapes our progress and presence deepens our growth. Patience reminds us that growth isn't something we can force. It's something we nurture. Like the natural world around us, everything unfolds according to its own rhythm. The tree doesn't rush to bloom. The mountain doesn't force the wind. And yet, everything arrives precisely when it's meant. So too, should we trust the unfolding of our own lives. The moments we often dismiss as waiting are not empty. They are rich with purpose. They are where character forms, where direction clarifies, where quiet strength is built. The next time impatience creeps in, pause and reflect on this simple truth. Nature never hurries, yet everything is accomplished. Instead of chasing immediate results, Focus on steady, deliberate progress. Because the more we allow things to unfold at their natural pace, the more grounded and enduring the results will be. And that leads us to lesson 4, the balance of action and acceptance. One of the most common misconceptions about Stoicism is that it teaches passivity, but nothing could be further from the truth. The Stoics were doers. They led empires, fought wars, endured personal tragedy, and transformed nations. But what set them apart was how they acted. They moved with intention, not desperation. Epictetus once said, "Do your duty, but do not be attached to the outcome." Think of an archer preparing to shoot. You align your aim. You draw the bow. You release. But the moment the arrow leaves your hands, so much is no longer within your control: the wind, the distance, the movement of the target. Your role was to take the shot. The rest belongs to fate. This is Stoicism in action, engaging fully in what you can control and gracefully releasing what you cannot. In life, we often crave quick wins. We want rapid results in our careers, in relationships, in our self-development. But just like a tree doesn't bear fruit in a single season, true success takes time. The best ideas, the strongest bonds, and the most meaningful achievements come from persistent, consistent effort over time. And when we rush the process, the outcomes tend to be fragile, easily broken, quickly lost. But when we let things evolve naturally, when we show up with intention but without obsession, our results are more sustainable, more rewarding. The journey itself becomes the reward. Fixating on control creates tension, both internally and externally. The harder we push for things to happen on our timeline, the more resistance we face. This applies to everything: your ambitions, your relationships, even your own emotional growth. Sometimes the wisest thing we can do is step back, breathe, allow life a little space to surprise us, because when we ease our grip, something shifts. New doors open, fresh ideas emerge, unexpected breakthroughs appear, often when we least expect them. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up. It means creating room for the natural flow of life to carry us forward. Success in any form is not just about effort. It's about harmony, the delicate dance between persistence and surrender. As the sculptor knows, let's continue in Lesson 5, Creating with Intention, where we explore how the most lasting impact comes not from force, but from alignment. In our last lesson, we reflected on how success stems from the balance between action and surrender. Now we dive deeper into how true mastery is born, not from force, but from working in harmony with the process. A sculptor doesn't recklessly chip away at stone. They move patiently, carefully, following the natural lines already present in the marble. Their role is not to impose, but to reveal. The same principle holds true for any creator, whether a musician, an artist, or even a content creator. Inspiration cannot be squeezed out of thin air. It's not something you can demand. It arises through consistent practice, thoughtful refinement, and a willingness to wait. Every masterpiece, every song, painting, film, or work of writing is the result of that delicate balance between skill and patience, never brute force. And life works the same way. When we push too hard, too fast, we risk stifling our own progress. But when we persist with patience, when we learn when to press forward and when to hold back, we create the conditions for something excellent to emerge. This isn't just philosophy, it's reflected in nature all around us. Rivers don't carve their path by crashing violently through the land. They do so through steady, persistent flow over time. Flowers don't bloom before their season. The sun doesn't rise until the moment is right. The universe moves in rhythm. It does not rush, and neither should we. When we try to force outcomes, we disrupt this balance. We create resistance where there could be ease. But when we attune ourselves to life's timing, we move forward more naturally, more gracefully. Patience, then, is not inaction. It's wisdom in motion. It means having the awareness to act when the time is right, and the discipline to wait when it isn't. Many people mistake patience for passivity. But the truth is, it takes far more strength to wait with intention than to act out of impulse. It takes courage to trust that what's meant for you is already on its way. It takes faith to believe that you don't have to chase every opportunity, that some of the best ones will arrive exactly when you're ready for them. And often, it's in the quiet moments of surrender that life reveals its greatest gifts. The deepest insights don't come when we're forcing answers. They come when we release the need to control and simply allow ourselves to listen. History's greatest minds, whether artists, inventors, or leaders, understood this. They didn't bulldoze their way to success. They allowed their work to unfold, shaped by discipline, guided by purpose, and aligned with a deeper rhythm. When we adopt a mindset of flow over force, our path becomes more rewarding, not just in outcome, but in experience. Wisdom lies in knowing when to act boldly and when to gently step aside. And letting go, it doesn't mean giving up. It means working with life, not against it. Because when we move with intention and trust, we prepare ourselves for the next stage of true inner mastery. Let's explore that now in Lesson 6, The Strength in Surrender, where we uncover how letting go can actually become your greatest source of power. When we stop forcing and start flowing, something remarkable happens. We open doors to possibilities we never saw coming. Some of life's most beautiful moments aren't planned. They happen when we surrender control, allow space, and trust in life's unfolding rhythm. In those moments, joy emerges, fulfillment deepens, peace settles in. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means gaining something far greater, the freedom to live without constantly battling every twist and turn. When we release the pressure to control every outcome, we make room for clarity, calm, and connection. Embracing the flow of life isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the realization that peace isn't found in relentless striving, but in learning to ride the current with grace. When we begin to trust the process, we naturally reduce stress. Our minds quiet, our path becomes clearer, and the daily experience of life shifts from struggle to ease, from friction to flow. Life doesn't have to feel like a battlefield. When we let go of unnecessary tension and allow ourselves to move with change instead of against it, we begin to build a life that feels not only lighter, but richer in meaning. The key to lasting happiness, it's not found in control, it's found in harmony. Do your best, show up fully, and then detach. Put in the effort, but release the need to force an outcome. Trust that what is meant for you will arrive. when it's meant to. And now we arrive at Lesson 5, Relationships, a space where the principle of letting go becomes even more challenging and even more essential. Because here's a truth that's hard to accept. You cannot force people to stay. The Stoics knew this well. People, like seasons, change. Trying to hold on to someone who is already drifting away only creates pain. A Stoic does not beg for love, nor do they plead for someone to stay where they no longer belong. Seneca once said, "The wise man is content with himself." And in this wisdom lies a powerful lesson. Clinging to relationships that have run, their course only breeds suffering. Not everyone in your life is meant to stay forever. Some are meant to teach you, challenge you, or accompany you for just a season. And that's okay. The most meaningful relationships are not built on force or control, but on mutual respect, on space, on natural connection. Trying to hold someone too tightly is like gripping a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. Just as rivers change their course and trees shed their leaves with the seasons, relationships must also be allowed to shift, evolve, and sometimes end. When we resist this natural ebb and flow, we create unnecessary pain. But when we accept it with grace, we free ourselves. We begin to embrace not just what was, but what is and what might yet be. Often we attach to people with the hope that they will always stay the same, fulfill the same role, or meet the same need. But true growth means accepting that this isn't always the case. Some connections blossom for a short season, others endure for a lifetime. Trying to force permanence on something that was only meant to be temporary will only lead to frustration. The Stoics remind us. Let's explore what that means more deeply in Lesson 6. The strength to let go of people gracefully, and how honoring change in relationships can become a path to freedom, not sorrow. In our last reflection, we began to see how releasing control over relationships can bring emotional freedom. Now, let's look deeper at how acceptance, not attachment, creates space for connection to thrive. Clinging to what's meant to change is a guaranteed recipe for heartache. But when we embrace transition, we open ourselves to something much more powerful: clarity, peace, and deeper, truer relationships. Love and friendship are at their most beautiful when they're chosen freely, not forced, not manipulated, not clung to out of fear. The more we try to control people, the more distance we often create. But when we release that grip, we cultivate space for authentic bonds to form, built not on need, but on mutual trust and admiration. Healthy relationships breathe. They evolve. They thrive when each person is allowed to grow without being caged by another's expectations. If someone is meant to be in your life, they will stay, not out of obligation, but out of desire. To be at peace with this truth is to understand one of life's most profound lessons. Relationships, much like gardens, need space as much as they need care. Overwatering a plant can drown it, just as over-controlling a friendship or romance can slowly suffocate it. Sometimes love means stepping back, giving others room to choose to grow and to walk their own path, even if that path eventually leads them away from us. This acceptance isn't cold or indifferent. It's a deep respect for another person's journey. It's knowing that love rooted in freedom, not fear, is the most lasting kind. When we begin to view relationships with gratitude instead of attachment, something shifts inside us. We stop trying to hold people still in our lives, and instead, we begin to treasure their presence while we have it. Every person we meet brings something with them, a lesson, a laugh, a new way of seeing the world. Some bring joy, some bring challenges that help us grow, but all bring value. And when we can see that clearly, we no longer fear the end of a connection. We celebrate the richness of having experienced it at all. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean erasing memories or pretending something didn't matter. It means honoring what was while remaining open to what might be next. It means letting people evolve just as we do, without holding them hostage to who they used to be or who we hoped they'd remain. There's a quiet grace in allowing life and love to unfold without resistance. When we stop trying to make people fit our expectations, we not only free them, we free ourselves. This mindset builds healthier interactions, not rooted in fear or dependency, but grounded in appreciation. The wisest among us understand no relationship is ever truly lost. Every connection leaves a mark. Every friendship, every romance, every moment of love or laughter. It lingers as a part of us long after the person may be gone. The essence of our relationships lives on in the imprint they leave, not in how long they lasted, but in how deeply they touched us. So what happens when we finally let go of the need to control others? Let's continue with Lesson 7, Freedom and Detachment, and discover how emotional independence leads to deeper, more meaningful bonds. When we truly let go, when we stop holding on so tightly to what must change, we begin to notice something surprising. Space opens up, and in that space, joy often returns. New friendships arise. Old bonds sometimes reappear in ways we never expected, and existing relationships deepen, not through force, but through freedom. Practicing healthy detachment doesn't mean emotional disconnection. It means cultivating emotional resilience. Instead of fearing the end of a relationship, we begin to trust that every shift, every goodbye, plays a role in guiding us towards something greater. Just as nature doesn't grieve the passing of one season, it welcomes the next. We too must learn to flow with life's natural rhythms. When we hold on to people out of fear, we create suffering. But when we release them with an open heart, we begin to grow wiser, more grounded, and more at peace. The more we let go of our grip, the more room we create for new experiences, unexpected connections, and a deeper sense of fulfillment. Ultimately, relationships should uplift us, not burden us. They should feel like sunlight, warm, present, but never caged. To love someone, whether platonically or romantically, is not about possessing them. It's about appreciating them fully for who they are in this moment. Letting someone go when the time is right isn't weakness. It's not abandonment. It's one of the highest forms of love. It's an act of profound acceptance, a recognition that their journey may now take them in a different direction. And in that acceptance, we find peace. By embracing this perspective, we free ourselves from the suffering that comes with clinging. Instead, we step into a mindset of abundance, of gratitude for the moments shared, the lessons learned, and the growth earned through connection. Let people come and go as they must. Cherish those who choose to stay, but do not force what was never meant to last. And now, with this strength of heart, we turn to another powerful teaching of the Stoics, Lesson 6. ambition without anxiety. In a world that constantly tells us to hustle, to grind, to never stop, the Stoics offered a refreshing contrast. They believed in striving, but without desperation. Marcus Aurelius didn't chase the throne. He didn't scheme or claw his way to power. It came to him because he lived in alignment with virtue. He prepared himself not to force greatness, but to receive it when the time was right. True power isn't found in relentless chasing. It's found in steady purpose. Purposeful action, measured and deliberate, clears away the noise. It dissolves unnecessary stress, and it provides a much clearer path to deep, lasting fulfillment. Ambition is noble, but if it's fueled by fear or ego, it turns toxic. As the old proverb says, "He who chases two hares catches neither." A calm mind, focused and unhurried, achieves more than a frantic one ever could. When we pursue our goals with composure and clarity, we allow wisdom, not anxiety, to lead the way. Fear-driven ambition burns fast and bright, and then burns out. But a steady, focused pursuit, that builds something meaningful, something that lasts. Let's continue exploring this mindset in Lesson 7, The Power of Calm Pursuit, where we'll uncover how a Stoic approach to ambition leads not just to success, but to inner peace along the way. In our last reflection, we explored the idea that ambition, when paired with calm and purpose, becomes a source of strength rather than stress. Now, we deepen that insight by looking at the true value of slow, deliberate progress. In a world obsessed with speed, we forget that meaningful progress is often quiet and gradual. It's not the quick wins that shape a legacy, it's the steady, thoughtful momentum that builds over time. This principle holds true across every pursuit: business, art, leadership, and personal growth. History's greatest achievements were not the result of frantic bursts of energy. They came from those who stayed the course, committed, consistent, and clear in their direction. Think of the masters who left behind timeless works, the artists who shaped culture, the philosophers who challenged humanity to think deeper, the inventors who forever changed how we live. None of them sprinted blindly toward success. Instead, they trusted the process, embraced failure as part of the journey, and allowed their craft to evolve. True ambition isn't about speed, it's about direction. When we move methodically, we don't just create, we refine, we innovate, we endure. This is what allows great work to live on long after its creator is gone. The slow, steady path may not grab attention at first, but it's often the one that produces results that truly matter, results that last. When we force ambition, we risk losing the joy of the journey. We become fixated on results, measuring our worth by accolades, numbers, or milestones. But that's not where fulfillment lies. The Stoics remind us that our deepest satisfaction doesn't come from external praise. It comes from within, from the quiet confidence that we've done our best with what we had within our control. The real reward isn't the trophy at the end. It's the transformation that happens along the way. The struggles, the revisions, the internal growth. This process of becoming is what shapes character and reveals life's deepest truths. There is a subtle but vital difference between healthy ambition and anxious striving. To cultivate ambition without anxiety, we must balance determination with detachment. Work with focus, but don't obsess over outcomes. Pursue excellence, but don't tie your self-worth to whether you win or lose. When ambition is guided by a calm heart and a steady mind, it lifts us, it energizes us, it becomes a quiet, powerful force that moves us forward without weighing us down. And when we stop trying to force results, we allow our work to unfold as it should, not rushed, not strained, but in its own time, ripe, complete, and meaningful. The Stoics teach us to focus only on what we can control and let go of the rest. To put this into practice, imagine a farmer planting a seed. He doesn't demand instant growth. He doesn't dig it up each morning to check its progress. He prepares the soil, waters the earth, trusts in the season, and then he waits. Let's carry this image forward in Lesson 8. The Stoic farmer's patience, where we'll explore how trusting the process rather than rushing it leads to deeper growth and lasting success, just like the farmer who plants a seed and then steps back in patience, nurturing the land, providing care, and trusting the natural rhythm of growth. We too must approach our ambitions with that same quiet faith. When we water our goals with consistent effort and patience, we create space for something authentic to unfold. Success, then, becomes a result, not of relentless chasing, but of alignment, of showing up day after day, trusting that our dedication will lead to the harvest in its own time. A tree never rushes to grow. It doesn't stretch itself desperately toward the sky. It simply follows its natural pace, steady, rooted, unwavering, and so should we. The Stoics remind us that peace isn't found in the finish line. It's found in the act of doing, in the work itself. Every moment spent in focused, honest effort has value, even if the rewards aren't immediately visible, even if no one sees it yet. True ambition, then, should feel like a compass, not a weight. It should guide, not crush, when we channel our energy into steady, purposeful progress instead of frantic, outcome-driven exertion. We not only achieve more, but we begin to enjoy the process. The steps become as meaningful as the destination. By embracing this way of thinking, we begin to experience something rare, a life where success and contentment exist side by side. A life that proves real achievement isn't just about reaching a goal. It's about who you become while getting there. So work hard, show up fully, but don't let results consume you. Focus on being excellent in each moment, and the rewards will come on their own terms, in their own time. Because life isn't a race toward an end. It's a journey of learning, growing, and evolving day by day. And as we continue evolving, we come to another powerful truth. Lesson 7, the art of adaptability. Life is full of curveballs, moments that derail our plans, challenge our comfort, and test our strength. And in those moments, it's not force, but flexibility that determines how we rise. The Stoics knew this well. They understood that rigidity leads to suffering, while adaptability leads to survival. The person who insists on one narrow path will inevitably feel broken when life changes course. But the one who stays open, who listens, pivots, and realigns, will always find a way forward. Adaptability doesn't mean abandoning your principles. It means knowing when to bend and when to hold firm. A wise warrior doesn't fight every battle head-on. They choose their moment. They know when to strike, when to retreat, and when to adjust their course. Those who cling too tightly to a single plan often suffer most. But those who welcome new possibilities, who adapt with awareness and humility, they thrive. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the heart of it. Strength isn't about control. It's about choice. It's about how we respond when things fall apart, when plans unravel, when life throws the unexpected, and in the next lesson, we'll uncover what truly separates those who merely survive from those who rise. Let's continue in Lesson 8, Resilience through Realignment. As we learned in the previous lesson, true strength lies in our ability to adapt, to pivot when life demands it, to shift direction without losing purpose. Now, let's explore how adaptability is the foundation for lasting resilience. When we refuse to stay stuck, we reclaim our power. An entrepreneur whose first venture fails doesn't abandon the dream entirely. They reassess, refine their approach, and try again. A student struggling with a subject doesn't quit learning. They search for new methods, new angles, new ways of understanding. That's what adaptability does. It transforms setbacks into tools. It extracts wisdom from difficulty and uses it to fuel growth. Change often arrives wrapped in discomfort, and yes, it can be unsettling. But discomfort is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of transformation. A person who avoids change chooses stagnation, but the one who embraces it continues to evolve again and again. Seneca captured this perfectly. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor strengthens the body. Every obstacle, every challenge is an invitation to sharpen our thinking, to build emotional endurance, to prepare for the next unknown, and the more we practice adaptability, the more resilient we become. But to cultivate adaptability, we must first release the illusion of control. Life won't always follow our plans, and it shouldn't. Instead of clinging to rigid expectations, we can hold intentions loosely. We can aim for a goal while staying open to the fact that the path may look different than we imagined. When challenges arise, ask, what can I learn from this? How can I shift, grow, or adjust? With that mindset, even the toughest setbacks become stepping stones, because the most successful people aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who learn from it. They adapt, they refine, and they move forward, smarter, stronger, and more grounded than before. Growth comes when we stop fearing change and start working with it. When we let go of the need to control every outcome, we create space for better, more aligned opportunities to appear. The Stoics didn't teach us to resist life. They taught us to flow with it. So reflect on your own life. Where are you resisting? Where are you holding too tightly to how things should be? What would happen if, just for a moment, you let go and adjusted? You might be surprised by how many new doors open when you stop pushing against the ones that are closed. And now, to deepen this transformation, we turn inward into a lesson that holds quiet, profound power. Lesson 8. The strength in stillness. A world that constantly urges us to move faster, achieve more, and never stop. Stillness is often misunderstood, but the Stoics knew better. Stillness is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is power, the kind of power that brings clarity, focus, and unshakable peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can you find a more peaceful retreat than in your own soul." It is in moments of stillness, not in motion, that we see clearly. Let's explore how this calm, quiet space can become your greatest strength. In our fast-moving world, stillness is often mistaken for inaction. But as we explored earlier, it is in stillness, not chaos, that clarity begins to emerge. When we stop reacting impulsively and instead respond wisely, everything changes. The mind, like water, becomes clear when it is calm. Leave muddy water undisturbed, and what happens? The sediment settles, the surface stills. Suddenly, you can see through it. Our thoughts work the same way. When we release the constant agitation, when we let go of the need to always be doing, fixing, controlling, our mental waters begin to settle. What once felt chaotic begins to align. In that space of quiet, wisdom has room to speak. This is why the greatest leaders, thinkers, and philosophers have always valued solitude. True wisdom isn't found in the noise of the world. It's born from the stillness within. When we cultivate that stillness, we begin to face life's challenges with more patience, more presence, and far more strength. Stillness builds self-awareness. It allows us to observe our thoughts, our fears, desires, motivations, without getting lost in them. In silence, we begin to hear ourselves. We gain the ability to respond to life with intention rather than with reactivity. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," and he was right. Most of our anxiety comes not from real problems, but from restless minds spinning endless worst-case scenarios. Inner stillness gives us the power to interrupt that cycle, to separate imagined suffering from actual reality, to regain control of our thoughts instead of letting them control us. The ability to sit with ourselves without distraction, without noise, is one of the most powerful skills we can develop. And yet, many avoid it. Why? Because we've been conditioned to believe that stillness equals inactivity, that if we're not doing something, we're wasting time. But Stoic stillness isn't passive, it's deliberate, it's presence. A wise leader doesn't speak first. They listen, they observe, and when they finally act, their words carry weight. When we learn to pause, to reflect before we move, our actions become more effective. We avoid costly mistakes born from haste. We move with precision, not panic. Even nature teaches us this. The mountains remain unmoved even as storms rage around them. The moon never rushes through its cycle. The ocean flows in rhythm with the pull of the tides. And even the fiercest predators know when to wait, conserving their energy for the right moment. Our greatest strength often lies not in movement, but in knowing when to move. To act without awareness is to burn out quickly, but to wait, to listen, to let timing reveal itself. This is what leads to lasting success. Practicing stillness means resisting the urge to fill every moment with activity. It challenges the idea that busyness equals productivity. Because some of the deepest growth, some of the most important realizations happen not in motion, but in stillness. When we stop forcing things, we often discover that the answers we were chasing rise naturally to the surface. The Stoics remind us True power doesn't come from how much we do. It comes from how wisely we act. And sometimes the wisest thing we can do is simply sit still and listen, even if it's just for a few quiet minutes each day. Now, let's continue with Lesson 9, the power of reflection, where we'll explore how turning inward not only clears our mind, but guides our life. Stillness isn't just a personal practice. It's also a powerful tool in how we relate to others. As we've explored, when we pause and ground ourselves in presence, we act with greater clarity and wisdom. But this same calm awareness can also transform our relationships. Each day, even a few quiet moments of stillness can cultivate resilience, deepen patience, and lead to a more profound understanding of life itself. And when we bring that presence into our conversations, something beautiful happens. Instead of rushing to speak or reacting on impulse, we listen fully. We allow silence to breathe between the words, and in that space, deeper connections are born. The most meaningful relationships aren't always defined by constant chatter or activity. They're built in shared stillness, in those quiet moments where nothing is said, yet everything is understood. Practicing stillness in our interactions helps us appreciate this subtle but powerful truth. Real connection doesn't always need words. It needs presence. So try this. Just once a day, turn off your phone, close your eyes, breathe deeply. Let your thoughts pass like clouds across the sky, without chasing them. Notice how your body softens. Notice how your mind becomes clearer. That space of calm, that's where wisdom lives. Over time, this simple practice sharpens your ability to respond rather than react, and strengthens your capacity to meet life with patience, not panic. It improves how you speak, how you listen, how you lead, and how you love. The Stoics would remind us, do not force anything. Flow like water. Act wisely, but accept what is beyond your control. Life is not a war to be won by sheer willpower. It's an unfolding journey. It requires patience. It requires presence. It asks us to adapt, not to dominate. True strength doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from learning how to move in harmony with what life presents. Look at nature. The river doesn't rage. It flows. And yet, over time, it carves through stone and shapes the very landscape. The tree doesn't resist the wind. It bends. And in that flexibility, it survives every storm. And you too can learn this art. Instead of resisting the inevitable, what if you embraced the current? What if in every obstacle you saw a hidden redirection? The more we resist, the more we suffer. But the more we allow, the more peace we create. Let go of the urge to force specific outcomes. Learn to recognize opportunities as they arise and adjust with grace, not resistance. As Epictetus said, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. This is not a call for passivity. It's a reminder to partner with reality, not fight against it. Take purposeful steps. Stay focused on your goals. But also understand, some things will always be outside your control. Wisdom lies in knowing when to act and when to let go. Let life play its part. Let go of control. Trust the flow, because some doors are meant to close so others can open. And the obstacles we face, they're often not blockages, but detours, guiding us to something better. Now, let's explore how this mindset of release and realignment leads us to one of the Stoics' most powerful practices. Lesson 9. Reflect, refine, realign. The discipline of daily reflection. As we've seen, life flows most beautifully not when we try to control every detail, but when we trust, adjust, and move in harmony with its rhythm. Things begin to fall into place not through force, but through alignment. Peace doesn't come from dominating your circumstances, it comes from understanding them, from no longer needing to grasp or cling, but instead learning how to allow. When you release the illusion that you must control everything, something powerful happens. You create space for growth, for grace, for blessings you never expected. You create room for a deeper kind of calm. A calm that isn't tied to outcomes but to your state of being. And in that space, serenity begins to grow, quietly, steadily. So pause and ask yourself, what are you trying to force in your life right now? What are you gripping so tightly that it's actually slipping through your fingers? And more importantly, what might unfold if you simply let go? Not giving up, but giving space. Not walking away, but stepping back just enough to allow life to show you a different way. The Stoics didn't just teach us how to endure, they taught us how to live with clarity, with courage, and with deep, steady peace. Let go of what you cannot control. Focus on what you can, and trust deeply that what is meant for you will never miss you. In the end, the art of living well is not about force, but about flow.